Okay po. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat, and thank you so much for spending your Friday morning with us. No? Welcome po to the last remote and interactive learning conversations before the SEM opens. Okay po? This is how to be a lifeline, no? Supporting our students in a remote learning context. Kung tayo po ay siguro worried o anxious na sa pagbubukas ng SEM, mukhang marami rin po sa ating mga estudyante who feel the same. No? Bago pa man po itong pandemic, may mga estudyante na tayo na maraming mabigat na pinagdadaanan, experiencing problems of living and adjustment. No? At kung dati po ay challenging na to provide them support, how much more in our current learning landscape? Ano nga po ba yung mga essential na kailangan natin malaman about providing psychosocial support in an online or in a remote learning context? Okay po. So here to help us out, I'm so happy that she said yes, no? Isa po siyang Professor Emeritus sa Department of Psychology sa UP Diliman, no? At siya rin po ang kasalukuyang director ng UP Diliman Psychosocial Services, no? So sa mga Team Zoom, hello po. At sa lahat ng mga Team YouTube, hello po. Sama-sama po nating i-welcome ang ating pong bisita this morning, si Dr. Violeta V. Bautista. Hi, Doc Bo!
Hi! Hello, Ton. Magandang umaga sa iyo at sa lahat ng ating mga kasama dito sa webinar na ito. Good morning to everyone. Okay? So, I'm pleased to be here with you. The classes have not yet started, but we are already discussing the challenge of providing psychosocial support to our students in the context of remote learning. Now, that's very impressive. Even more so because we are doing this on a Friday morning. It's TGIF. And at 9 o'clock in the morning, we tend to want to still laze around in bed. And that is understandable. So the semester augurs well for our students because we all know that in times of crisis, people who feel supported tends to do well in the long run. Kaya maganda po ang pagbubukas ng ating semester para sa atin at para sa ating mga estudyante. Okay, so to start us off, I'd like us to participate in a short survey. So I'm not so good with the Zoom yet, okay, and its special features. So let me ask Ton to help us out in this short survey.
Okay po. Do you see the slide, Doc Bo?
Yeah. So I could see the slides, okay, and I have here four items. What I want you to do is touch base with how you think our students are doing during the pandemic, okay? And just indicate, okay? And Ton would tell you how to indicate your answer, whether you feel students are enjoying their life during the pandemic, are bored but otherwise are okay during the pandemic, are experiencing so much stress and are having difficulty adjusting to the challenges of the pandemic. And lastly, that our students are finding it hard adjusting to life during the pandemic and they are developing serious life problems. Okay? Sige po, ilagay niyo po ang inyong mga sagot. So, the participants in the poll, yes, Ton, please tell them what to do.
Yes po. So to participate in the poll po, baka you've done this before, kindly go to www.menti.com and enter the following code that you see on your screen. It's 2370677. Or alternatively, pwede niyo pong i-click yung link sa inyong chat box, no, para pumunta po kayo doon. And then, pili lang po kayo from among the options and then press the submit. And then we'll show you po how to, and we'll show you po the results in a bit. How many minutes do you want to give them, Doc Bo?
Half a minute, 1 minute.
Okay.
Okay. Just click, and then the first thing that comes to your mind, okay, tick the option, okay, and then submit.
Sige po. I will share the screen, Doc Bo, with the live results. So they're coming in na po. Wait lang po.
Okay, so what do we have there?
Sorry. Wait lang po. Okay. Can you see po the results, Doc Bo, on your screen?
Okay, you have to make it a little bit bigger. So there's not so many who answered. The students are generally happy. 22% said students are kind of bored. 47% said it's stressful. Okay, they're having difficulty adjusting to life during the pandemic. And is this percent or actual frequency?
Actual, yes, frequency.
Okay. And there's one that says they're happy, and 8 said, well, they're finding it hard and are also developing some problems. Okay. So the truth is, all of you are correct. Okay. Students, depending on their circumstance in life and their life history, would have different ways of experiencing the pandemic. Okay. So, to prepare for this webinar, I sort of tried to remember the stories told to me by students, okay, who I have worked with, and also read some blogs of university students, and I'd like to share some of those with you. Okay. Yeah. Okay. There are really also students who are coping well with the destabilization that the pandemic brings, and they're trying to make the most out of the situation and finding instances when they feel joyful, happy. So here's one narrative that I got from a student blog. Sabi niya, instead of feeling trapped or getting cabin fever, I'm excited to finally have a chance or as an excuse to do all the things I've been wanting to do, but always postponing them because I never had enough time. So she's kind of busy, okay, with things she wanted to do during the pandemic. And here's another student saying, sleeping and losing those eye bugs we get during during school days or playing online games with friends and filling the group chats with you okay or pasali at etc. For me, I use this time to take care of my health. I'd sleep for 7 to 8 hours. Inggit naman ako noon, ano? And exercise for 30 minutes or more. Wow, okay, body work buff. I eat as many fruits and vegetables. I think I'm doing that. That is in the table, and drink water more regularly. So she's trying to be healthy during the pandemic. I'd skip the junk food and not be a gluttonous beast. Okay. Then of course there are students who are bored, but otherwise are feeling okay during the pandemic. This is true of many of our students. Kaya pagka pinapakinggan ko yung ilang mga kausap ko na estudyante and they're thinking about going back to school, quote unquote, many of them are also saying, excited na kami, Doc. We're looking forward to going back to school. Okay? Kasi banas na kami dito sa bahay. Okay? So getting back to classes will relieve them of their boredom. Now, some social scientists are saying that the quarantine actually exposed a common problem among many of our young people. That is the inability of a person to muster up an actionable desire. Si Eastwood, isang psychologist who's been studying boredom for 2 decades. May bago siyang data ngayon, studying boredom in the context of the pandemic, has this to say: I think people misunderstand boredom. They think it is simply born out of the absence of things to do. It is really important to emphasize that is not the case. The bored person knows there are things to do, whatever they may be. The problem is they can't muster up an actionable desire. So in this context, taking off from what Eastwood had said, going back to school, even though in the context of remote learning, actually provides our young people with structure and processes that gets them going once more. Okay? Ang pinakamaraming nag-tick off ay yung option C. At saka merong isa ba o dalawa dun sa option D. Okay? And that's understandable, to really imagine our students experiencing so much stress and difficulties in life, and also anxiety about going back to their studies in a different learning context, okay? And also imagining that many of our students with the difficulties are also developing serious life problems, if not psychiatric concerns. Sabi nga ng maraming experts, we will see sa daig daw, sa pabalik-balik na mga waves of infection and reinfection, they're saying that we can expect to see an increasing number of mental health related issues. Okay? That makes sense naman, because the material and social peril of COVID-19 has really drastically changed our sense of realities. It brought threats not only to our physical health, but to different aspects of our way of life. Bahagi na doon yung mental health at saka yung social sphere of our life. Kaya, individuals, families, groups, communities, and whole nations. Kaya nga pandemic, ang lawak ng range, ng scope, have had to shift gears. Parang sa kotse, yung metaphor ng kotse. Mula sa uno, tutungo ka sa tersera. They have to shift gears, okay? And craft new processes and ways to accommodate and have a fighting chance within this new reality. Okay? So, in dealing with this new reality, miski yung mga dinosaurs na tulad ko, we realize we need to deal with the pandemic's technological impact. Okay? Once upon a time, I would just ask my staff, ayusin mo nga yung computer para sa akin. Okay? But nowadays, that's not possible because the use of technology is part of the fabric of our life. And in the course of doing that, damang-dama rin natin ito sa ating mga estudyante. We are finding out the extent of inequalities in access to good supportive technology. For many of us, we take for granted the existence of computers and laptops. Di ba? But for others, once upon a time, they would have to go to the shopping center, to malls in order to work on their assignments with computers. Eh, ngayon, sarado yung shopping center and other places at UP. Okay, so we sense, ano? Now, the extent of inequalities also in access to good supportive technology. We're also dealing with social relational impact of the pandemic, experiencing significant losses in social presence and support brought about by work, learn from home arrangements. Lalo siguro tayo talaga mga Pilipino, no? Kasi from birth to the grave, we've always had a kasama. Pupunta nga lang tayo sa CR, kinakailangan may kasama pa tayo. And then now all of a sudden, we're at home. Our friends are in their homes and we cannot go out, hang out, and touch base in the most personal and concrete way with each other. So the truth is, lahat tayo, everybody is affected by the pandemic, and people bring such issues with them in the learning environment. Iba-iba ang dating ng pandemic sa bawat isa sa atin, iba-ibang issue ang nabubuhay, iba-ibang intensity ang issue na dumadating sa atin. Pero sa totoo lang, parehong estudyante at saka kaguruan, okay, both students and faculty are grappling with the change in learning context, which could make academic load seem heavier and harder to accomplish. Yeah? Looking at the general population, so yun ang sense natin sa ating mga estudyante, ano? Pag tinignan mo ang general population, alam natin what's happening within the universities and certainly is happening outside. Kaya in one of the articles of Rappler, they featured the observation of National Center for Mental Health's statistics. Nakita kasi ng NCMH, they are providing hotline service. Ano? They observed record spikes in mental health consults during the coronavirus lockdown. Dati, ang karaniwang calls nila number from 13 to 15. During the pandemic, nag-shoot up siya sa 30 to 35. Now, that's understandable. Alam niyo ho, ang UP PsycServ, we started to provide telepsychotherapy to our students, faculty, and administrative staff when the pandemic entered the country. Kasi sense namin hindi pwede ang face-to-face provision of psychosocial support. And across time, we also monitored the number of calls that we were receiving. And during the time, nung magbukas tayo, UP Diliman, through PsycServ, open telepsychotherapy services, not only to our community, but to the general public. Kasi kita natin, ang nangangailangan, hindi lang yung nasa loob ng universidad, pero ang dae sa labas. So we decided to offer not only hotlines, but honest-to-goodness, brief psychotherapy. So ang statistics namin is really comparable to NCMH stats. Ang average number of calls per day was 46, and the all-time high number of calls in a day, all-time high naman ho yun, hindi average, is 146. Ngayon, mas bumaba na. And then, of course, we have surveys, okay? The recent survey of Social Weather Station showed that 79% of Filipinos think their lives worsened in the past year. Talagang nakakabahala rin yun, hindi ba? Pakiramdam ng napakaraming Pilipino, talagang humirap ang buhay, nitong mga nakaraang buwan. Okay. I guess so much so, ano? Ito, hinahanap ko ang exact data dito, no? Pero in the news, it was said that the head of the task force, the government's task force in dealing with COVID, Secretary Carlito Galvez, okay, was alarmed because he was told there's an increase in the number of suicides during this pandemic time. So much so that one of the members of the pandemic task force, si Justice Guevara ata, I hope my memory is correct, called on the churches and spiritual leaders to spread message of hope amid rising suicide cases. Yun yung nangyayari sa labas. Ano? Now, let's take a look at the problems that are brought to us sa UP Diliman PsycServ by the UP community. To date, we've had 1,555 callers. Okay, we've dealt with such cases. And our population, student population, most of the callers are students really. It's 22,000. So 1,555 is about 7% of the UP Diliman student population, roughly. Okay, and of these cases, 61.4 are psychiatric cases, no? And 38.5 or almost 0.6% are complicated problems of living. So hindi madadaling mga problema, issue ang dinadala ng mga estudyante and a few faculty and staff to PsycServ, ano? Pinakamaraming case would be depressive disorders. That's 561, equivalent to 37%. And then the second would be anxiety disorder cases. Yung iba, far, third, fourth, and so on. Okay? Of course, these are data from us, UP Diliman PsycServ, and people know we provide not only counseling but psychotherapy. So it's understandable that they would bring to us challenging problems. Also, we have several mental health related centers and offices in the Diliman campus. So they have their own statistics. Many students also go to their telepsychotherapy services. Okay, so when we think in terms of students who need people to talk to, who have issues to the point that they want to talk to someone, even a person who they do not know, but they feel have the competence to provide them support, mas malaki. Okay, we will be having a bigger number or greater percent of studentry. Yung problems of living, ibig sabihin nito, walang psychiatric diagnosis. Problema sa buhay. Sa buhay namang ito, ang hindi nawawala ay problema, hindi ba? Lahat tayo every now and then would encounter problems and they just vary in level of difficulty. So yung mga karaniwang problema na dinadala sa PsycServ would be the following: anxiety about what the future holds. Kasi one thing about the pandemic is that you're not certain about what's going to happen next. Magkakaroon ba ng reinfection? Dito sa Pilipinas, to a certain extent, alam natin ang susunod, ano? Mas lalong dadami ang COVID cases, okay? Fear over being sick or infecting others, ano? Talagang takot na takot tayo magkasakit. Pero lalo nang takot tayo na madalhan natin ng virus ang ating mga mahal sa buhay. And that's the reason why early on we decided to open our telepsychotherapy services to others. Ang unang population na inisip namin tulungan would be the frontliners, ano? Kasi pag nakikipag-usap kami sa kanila, feel namin ang kanilang courage side by side also with anxiety. of what exposure to the virus can do to them as well as their loved ones. And then overwhelming stress that comes from adjusting to many changes that the pandemic requires. Ang daing mga pagbabago na kinakailangan kumambyo tayo at saka mag-adjust, ano? Ang lungkot ng mga changes sa finances, ano? Kasi many of the people we know have lost their jobs, others still have their jobs, pero they've experienced uh, reduction in their paychecks, ano? Changes in work patterns, study patterns. Ito nga, kaya tayo nag-uusap ngayon, remote learning, ano? And then there comes in problems related to boredom, loneliness, and depression, ano? Bahagi yan ng quarantine, ano? Physical distancing, family conflicts. Ito, kitang-kita natin sa ating mga estudyante. Of course, we have many issues with our family. Pero living in the campus, staying in the dormitory, working 8 hours, okay, and doing overtime puts put some kind of a distance between us and our family. And if we have a discordant, highly dysfunctional family, then that distance to a certain extent can be helpful to us. So marami tayong mga estudyante umuwi sa kanilang mga tahanan ng daig-daig mga issues sa loob. No? So many of the problems that were brought to PsycServ were difficulties with parents, with siblings, with extended family, and there's also a spike in incidents of domestic violence. Kahuli-hulihan, we also encounter difficult questions. No? Hirap sagutin. We refer to them as existential questions brought about by suffering, tragedies, and death. No? Mga katanungan na may Diyos ba talaga? At kung meron, bakit parang pinabayaan niya tayo? These are difficult questions to wrestle with. Okay? Just to make some of these stories become very real to us, I will read 3 case briefs. Ano? Yung una, binigyan ko ng pamagat na lahat na kami may sakit. So this about Bench, finds it hard to sleep. She worries that she might get infected with the virus. On the 6th month of the COVID in the country, her sister, who works in an intensive care of a hospital, developed symptoms and registered positive in the COVID test. She cried the whole day and worried over the whole family being infected with the virus. Ninenervyos ka na baka mangyari. Ayun na nga nangyari. Hindi sa isa, dalawa, pero sa lahat. So everybody went for testing and everybody registered positive. 3 of them were symptomatic and the rest were not. Bench was devastated. Kasi ang hirap nito, ang mahal-mahal. Sa testing pa lang, pati ang treatment ng COVID. So the family had to raise money for the testing, and she knew it was a challenge for her dad kasi nabawasan rin ang sweldo niya by half. Yung pangalawa, pinamagatan kong sasabog na ako. It's about Greg. He feels like he is walking time bomb. Umuwi kasi siya sa pamilya niya sa Davao. He feels like he is going to explode. Life has been most difficult for him since he came home to live with his family in Davao when the pandemic came. His mother is a religious fanatic and he can't abide her illogical talks. They had many emotional, intense exchanges, and in one heated exchange, her mother told him, "If you cannot be supportive of my faith, you can just leave the house." That was when he almost drank liquid sosa in exasperation. Yung huli, naku, napakaraing cases na ganito, no? Ang pamagat nito, COVID na, break up pa. So this has to do with Jan, came for therapy because she was going through a breakup. She knew she was a high-maintenance girlfriend, but she never expected Glenn, her boyfriend, would let go of her. Her org mates told her that she is lucky to have him and that she should take care of him and not be demanding. Now that he's gone, she finds her day empty and her nights torturous. She can't focus on her studies and feels she is slipping into depression. She laments, COVID na, break up pa. Okay? So, ang daming mga istorya ng breakup or near breakup experiences. Ano? So, yung mga dinadalang mga problema sa amin, may kasamang suicidal ideations. Ano? In fact, 693 of the 1,555 cases or 47% have a suicidal ideation component. Pag tinrack mo ang average of suicidal cases with suicidal ideations sa aming trabaho, napansin namin halos pareho lang ang average number of cases with suicidal ideations. Makikita niyo yun, no? 49, 61, 48%, 47%. So ano ibig sabihin nito? As far as our statistics go, talagang tumaas ang mga dami ng mga estudyante na nanghihingi ng tulong. Okay? That's to be expected. In fact, kailan ba tong statistic na to? August, August pa lang, nalampasan na namin ang total number of cases for the year 2019. Talagang marami. Oo. Pero even though that 51 to 47% of suicidal ideation component in our cases is already high. It runs us rugged just attending to these cases even before the pandemic. Pero when I noticed na hindi nag-spike ang mean cases with suicidal ideations, nakahinga rin ako ng mas maluwag. Okay? So, looking back, pag tinignan natin ang mga problema na kinakaharap natin, marami namang mga estudyante tayo who are doing well. May mga problema yan, pero generally, coping well. And I guess marami tayong mga estudyante who are dealing with problems of living. And most of these problems of living connected siguro sa stress reactions. Okay? We know what's happening with the pandemic. And if you are not disturbed or destabilized by them, even for a short while, siguro hindi ka naman tao, hindi ka human being. So yung destabilization, disturbance that we are manifesting, experiencing in the context of the pandemic, many of them can be seen as normal reaction to abnormal situation. Ngayon, because of the interaction of so many factors, hindi lang dahil sa pandemic, because of the stressors brought about by the pandemic, individual family issues, genetic predisposition, we are getting possibly new psychiatric cases. Mga bago. Na-trigger. Okay? And then we have old cases, psychiatric conditions, na na-stabilize na, pero maaaring nag-relapse. At merong mga cases tayo na andun pa ang mga symptoms, pero manageable na. Pero because of the triggers brought by the pandemic, maaaring nag-exaggerate ang mga symptoms. Okay? So the work that we need to do in our community, among our students, and this applies to our faculty and staff. Okay? There's the challenge of keeping our students who are well, kinakailangan manatili silang put together. Okay? It doesn't mean to say because I'm okay now, I'll continue to be okay. Diba? Many things can set us off, put us at the edge. Okay? And those living with stress reactions, problems of living, we need to help them make sense of what's happening with them and deal with them in the most meaningful and effective way. The possibly new cases, we have to get them, the problem identified, diagnosed, and get them to seek treatment. And the same with existing stable and relapsing cases of psychiatric conditions, we need to keep our people, our students, faculty, and staff with this kind of problems stable and carrying on with therapy and psychiatric treatment. So sa lahat ng mga problemang ito, hindi po kaya ng professionals lang natin. Now we need the whole community to keep our people, you and me and our students, psychologically put together, mentally healthy. Kaya doon po tayo papasok bilang faculty. As we go along the way, in the course of teaching, which is our primary responsibility, we provide psychosocial support. Ang tawag po natin doon, MHPSS, Mental Health and Psychosocial Support. Pagtapos dun sa tunay na psychiatric cases o talagang napaka-complex na problem of living, hindi naman diagnosed pero talagang napakahirap ng problemang kinakaharap, i-refer po natin sa mga professionals. Okay? So, anong magiging itsura ng psychosocial support natin ngayon sa panahon ng COVID? Okay? Di syempre, talagang online lahat. Lahat by remote psychosocial support. Sari-saring remote psychosocial support service, online, telephone, cellphone, Viber, Facebook, tweets, posting on Facebook, landline or cell phones, emailing, okay? And we could provide support to individual students as well as to groups of students, di ba? Thank God for the versatility of Zoom and other online apps, ano? So, medyo nakakapanghina kung isipin dahil mga problema, pero what we could offer them is only remote support service. Only. Once upon a time, I used to have that kind of attitude and impression about remote MHPSS. Kasi nakadevelop ako ng tipong autoimmune condition. So ano ibig sabihin nun? Mabilis ako makapick up ng infections. So, hindi ko dati naintindihan ang ibig sabihin nun. So when I started to get sick more often, then I realized it's true. I really pick up bugs easily. So, punta ako sa aking doktor. Nagpapayo ako. No, ano ibig sabihin nun? Ibig ba sabihin nun, hindi na ako pwedeng mag-therapy. Isang doktor ko mahusay, avant-garde. Sabi niya sa akin, Doc Bolet, hindi pwede. Hindi ka pwedeng mawala sa psychotherapy. Pero, kinakailangan online psychotherapy ka na. That was before the COVID. And I resisted the idea. Kasi, sanay ka ng face-to-face eh. Parang feeling ko hindi effective. So, I resisted. I hold off getting into online telepsychotherapy, ang tawag natin ngayon. And then COVID came, and there's no choice. Everybody has to provide their MHPSS through remote system. And when I started to provide psychosocial support via online apps, then I realized, pwede pala. Okay, I really could be very effective in doing therapy, counseling, psychosocial support to students, my individual clients through online apps or simply telephone calls and conversations. Okay, amazing. Pero syempre, may mga downside rin siya. Di ba? There are times you would like to embrace your client, to show empathy, caring, and then hindi ko siya mayakap, layo, Oo. And then there are emergency situations, sa amin sa PsycServ. Tara, punta tayo sa UP Health Service. May ambulansya doon, immediate support. Pero hindi mo pwedeng puntahan yung student who is undergoing crisis para samahan sa ospital, sa UP Health Service. So tatawagan mo yung UP Health Service para magpadala sila ng ambulansya. Kung hindi yun available, hahanap tayo ng ibang ospital. No? So may downside. pero it works. So here are some tips on making online psychosocial support work for you and your students. And di syempre, like what I did, nagbihis po ako dahil I'll be seeing you. So dress up for your students, not only for webinars, work on the lighting on your screen. So hindi ho constant ang ganda ng lighting, kaya bumili po ako ng mura lang 300 na para sa consultation ng mga estudyante, psychosocial support, ang tawag niyan ring light, 300 pesos sa Shopee at saka sa Lazada. If something's wrong with your sound system, pagbutihin, you could use a headset, mura na rin po yun. Face the screen squarely, diretso, hindi nakaka-profile. Sit up in an upright way, wala pong slouching. Kasi kung naka-slouching ka, sarap, nasa bahay ka kasi, it doesn't make the person you're talking to feel attended to and respected. So face the screen squarely, sit up straight, do not slouch, don't be too near or too far. This is too far, this is too near, okay? And remember, you're talking to a person, not a screen. Minsan nakakalimutan natin yun eh. No, hindi sa screen. Okay? And then tandaan po natin, there are students who do not want to be seen on the screen. Sa isang malaking classroom, students can be invisible. Kasi yung mga estudyante nilang extroverted, madaldal, mas yun na nakikita. Pero ang sabi ng mga estudyante, pagka nandun daw sila sa Zoom, kikita sila lahat, miski maliit yung window. So they turn off their video. So it's not always the case na pag nag-turn off ng video ang estudyante, he or she is being disrespectful o baka tumakas. Okay? There may be other reasons. Okay. Ano yung mga strategies in providing mental health and psychosocial support? Ang dae. Yung PFA, alam nyo na, psychological first aid, critical incident stress debriefing, andyan yung traditional counseling and psychotherapy, family support as against family therapy, group support as against group therapy, and then kumustahan. I will talk more about kumustahan mamaya. Psychoeducation, nung nagtuturo tayo on how to live at this time. Through webinars, online concerts, radio programs, training of lay helpers, patuloy po ang training natin sa PsycServ, resilience building groups, no? Online preaching and homilies, postings, emailings of infographic stories of virtues, etc., etc. Pero ano man po ang MHPSS activities na gamitin natin, ang gusto nating mangyari, maipahatid natin sa ating mga estudyante ang ating caring and concern, ma-identify natin ang ating mga estudyante who are hurting, na kailangan ng psychosocial support, and make them feel supported. Hindi nag-iisa, nakikita sila, they're not invisible. Provide them with information that will help them deal with their difficulties, and when necessary, make referral. No? So ito yung mga pwedeng gawin natin. Ano mga simpleng bagay? Yung mga infographics, meron tayong infographics. Dalawin niyo po ang resource link ng PsycServ. Marami pa hong ibang resource link sa community, i-discover natin. Pwede tayong kumuha doon ng mga infographics, pwede natin ito dala sa mga estudyante natin. Pwedeng lahat kasi general need naman to, o pwedeng specific pag nakita natin may specific needs, ano? Yeah, so these are all for free. How to view emotions and how to live in a winsome way with our emotions in time of COVID. Music for meditation. Merong mga pwedeng i-download. Here are my favorite. Mindfulness exercise to calm our spirit and to help us manage our cognitive processes. Mindfulness. Fun time! No, pwedeng, tuntunga nga ako nagse-celebrate pa ko ba kayo ng birthday sa mga kaibigan nyo? Pwede, di ba? Sabi ng anak ko, mag-iinuman lang kami, mami. Talaga? Oo ma, bring your own inom. Okay? So you could also ask your students to divide into groups and come up with presentation. Bakit? Napakahalaga nun kasi some students do not have a life going on for them at home. Baka yung iba nga nasa dorm lang o sa boarding house o keeping to their room kasi toxic yung mga tao na nasa labas. So it's good to have the students connect to each other through group work that is possible through online meetings that gets them connected to people. Okay? Remembering to give special messages and things to do. Ako, tuwang-tuwa ako eh. May kaibigan akong physical therapist. Alam niya na medyo may frozen shoulder ako. Pinadalan ako ng exercises. Alam niya, mahilig ako sa ginhawa program. Sabi niya, exercises for Doc Bo for extra ginhawa. Okay? So those are little things you could do. No, not much sweat. Kumustahan. Mga Pilipino, magaling ho sa kumustahan. Tayo lahat, ano? So we could do kumustahan with our students online over the phone. And what do we do with kumustahan? In the course of talking to the student about his or her academic concern, we can engage the student in kumustahan, inquiring into how he or she is. Di ba ang ganda nun? Kinukumusta natin. That's one of the things that makes students happy. Ma'am, kinumusta ako ng teacher ko, hindi tungkol sa aking lessons lang, tungkol sa ako, sa buhay ko. That was so meaningful to the student. So here are things I'll ask Ton to show video clips. So here is a whole process of kumustahan between a teacher and a student. Role-playing lang po ito. Ano? And then I will show it to you piece by piece to make you appreciate certain segments that are important in the process of a kumustahan that provides psychosocial support to our students. Sir Ton, unang video po.
Okay po. So, Doc Bo, stop share muna kita, ha?
Oo.
And then, also for reminder lang po, sa mga naka-earphones or headphones, baka po pwedeng pa-lower muna yung volume kasi baka hindi po natin alam yung lakas ng pasok ng video. So, here is our first video.
Congrats, Jello. Successful ang enrollment mo sa Psych 110. Start natin ng class, bali would be next Monday.
Thank you po. That's great news, ma'am.
Okay, so saan ka naman nagsistay ngayon?
Dito po sa Bukidnon. May farm po kami dito ng family ko.
Wow. Madami ba kayo tanim?
Opo. Madami po kaming gulay tsaka palay.
Ayos, hindi ko pala magugutom dyan
Oo nga po, ganun na nga. Medyo tumataba na nga po eh.
Yung buti yan, di ba? Para healthy ka. I mean, lalo pa ngayong pandemic, di ba? It's always important to take care of your health. Kaya actually as your teacher, I want you to know na if ever during our semester that you have any concerns, so for example, baka may problema ka or may pinagdadaanan ka or any other worries or concerns you might have, I want you to know na pwede mo akong sabihan, you can talk to me. Syempre, hindi ko naman magagaranti na, kaya kong isolve naman, lahat ng mga magiging problema mo. Pero I guess what I want to assure you is that if ever you have any concerns, makikinig ako, and then maybe together, we can help you address your concerns or kung ano man yung pinagdadaanan mo. So, anong tingin mo dito?
Okay po ako. Thank you po, ma'am.
Okay? So, we'll stay there. Hindi na tayo bumalik dun sa mga slides ko kasi tutungo tayo sa susunod na vignette, which is a continuation of this conversation. So to start kumustahan, syempre may entry point, yung katatapos na consultation tungkol sa subjects na kukunin ng bata. May segue, and andun yung magaan na pangungumusta. So you're building rapport with your student as you inquire, asan ka ba? Oo, saan ba yan? Anong ginagawa niyo dyan? Okay? So, kinakalang swabe ang pasimula ng kumustahan. Tungo tayo sa susunod na video.
Third year mo na pala ngayon, ano? How was your last sem?
Okay naman po. Medyo napahinga ako kasi umuwi kami sa amin. So, pasado naman po yung mga subjects ko. Tapos, pero ngayon, back to normal na daw. So, ano po, I will be taking my psychological statistics and chem na sabay. Pareho mong challenging sa akin po yung dalawang courses na yun.
Oo nga, kaloka. Pinagsabay mo pa yung stat at chem mo. No, madugo yun, ha? So, anong total load mo ngayon?
Mga 16 units po, ma'am.
Last sem, ilan ka?
Yun yung mabigat kasi hinabol ko yung backlog ko. So, mga 21 units po ako last sem.
Wow, dami nga.
Opo.
So, napaka-swabe, di ba? Patuloy na mag-usap, kumustahan sa kanyang pag-aaral, ano nangyari nung last sem, mas mabigat, 21 units. Kumusta ngayon? Mas magaan. Kaya lang, dalawang challenging na subjects. No? So, patuloy. Ang teacher na interesado, kumusta na ang estudyante niya? Pangatlo,
tayo sa ACADS. Meron ka pa bang ibang concerns na non-academic? Baka pwede rin nating tingnan kung magawa natin ang paraan.
Naku, ma'am, nakakahiya naman. Dami yun ng trabaho so idadagdag ko pa yung mga issue ko.
Ba? Naku, hindi. Manageable naman yung workload ko. Tsaka, tagal nagsiset aside naman ako ng oras, no, para makipag-bonding sa aking mga estudyante, no? So, what's up? May gusto ka ba i-share? May concerns ka ba?
Ano po? Ewan ko po, pero parang minsan naiisip ko po na na ang feeling ko minsan na parang walang kwenta ang buhay.
Okay, so anong ibig sabihin mo doon?
Paano ko po ba sasabihin to? Okay naman po yung grades ko. Pwede na po. Di naman po ako bumabagsak. Mabait naman po yung parents ko. Mga kapatid ko, okay naman po. Pero minsan lang po, parang wala lang. Parang hindi lang po ako masaya. Hindi po ako happy.
So, what is it like ba? Or ano ba yung feeling or nararanasan mo kapag hindi ka happy?
Parang wala lang po. I don't think anyone is important. Parang I don't think I am important to anyone. Minsan nga po, wala na akong pakialam sa pag-aaral ko. I just go through the motion. Parang observer lang po ako sa buhay. Normal po ba yun?
okay. So, nabuksan ang pinto at yung estudyante handa naman na magkwento ng kanyang pinagdadaanan, hindi tungkol sa academic concerns. At yung teacher, nakinig. At binayaan na patuloy na magkwento ang estudyante. Sa susunod po.
Well, hindi ako madalas makarinig ng mga ganyang kwento, no, mula dun sa mga iba kong estudyante. And, well, hindi naman ako, professional psychologist or doctor. So, actually, hindi ko rin naman masabi sa'yo, no, kung normal ba yun or hindi. Pero, how do you deal ba with yung mga ganung feelings pag ganun nararamdaman mo? Anong ginagawa mo?
Ano po, minsan tinutulog ko na lang po. Pero may mga days po na parang napaka-toxic niya po sa pakiramdam ko na parang walang kwenta yung buhay ko. Kaya minsan hindi ko napipigilan pero I cut myself.
So, ano naman yung epekto sa'yo ng pag-cut mo sa yung sarili?
Ano po? Hindi ko po alam Parang feeling ko weird po ako, ma'am. Pero I feel better. Kasi parang ang dating, parang mas buhay ako. Parang may nararamdaman ako. Parang ganun po.
Hindi ba sumagi sa isip mo ever na ituloy mo yung pagkat sa yung sarili to the point that, you would want to end your life? Have you ever naisip mo na ba yun? Or experience mo ba yun?
Hindi pa naman po, ma'am. Hindi pa naman.
Okay. Well, then I'm very, very glad to hear that, no? So, may iba ka na bang kinwentohan nito? You told anyone about,
Sinabihan ko lang po yung ko po best friend ko, yung classmate ko dati nung elementary. Nakikinig naman po siya, pero alam ko natatakot po siya sa akin.
Okay. So lumalim na ang usapan. At ang natutuwa naman tayo dun sa teacher, hindi nagmarunong. Kung ano lang ang alam niya, at ang mas kitang-kita natin, concerned siya dun sa estudyante. Kaya patuloy siya nagtatanong, inaalam niya paano nagko-cope yung estudyante sa harap ng kanyang pinagdadaanan. So tingnan natin ang kahuli-hulihan.
So, how about dalawin mo kaya ulit ako para at least, pwede pa tayong magchikahan and you can update me about your stat and chem classes, no? Kasi ako nung estudyante ako, hirap na hirap ako doon, no? So, di ba, we can catch up about how you're doing with your other classes. And then, update mo na rin ako kung nakakuha ka ba ng appointment sa PsycServ, no? Okay ba sa'yo yun?
Opo naman, syempre po. Yun, nahiya nga po ako sa inyo eh.
No, it's okay. Huwag ka mahiya. It's, we're happy to be able to support our students, no? And I really want to also stay in touch with you to hear how you're doing. So, how about this? Ilagay ko na siya sa calendar ko, no? So, teka, tingnan ko lang yung Ikaw ba, what date is good for you?
Kayo po, kung kailan po kayo free?
Sige, teka, I'm checking my sked now. Okay ka ba ng 9 a.m. Tuesday? So, bali September 15. Are you free?
Okay naman po ako doon. Yun, maraming salamat, ma'am. Pero sige po, yun nga po ang dami ko na pong nakaing oras nyo, so pasensya na.
Thank you rin for your time and for sharing with me how you're doing. Balitaan, let's stay in touch. Balitaan tayo. So I'll see you next Tuesday, okay?
Game po ako. Maraming salamat. Thank you po.
Okay, that's good. So let's go back to our slides. Okay? So yun role playing lang ho yun, ano? Hindi talaga nangyari, pero yung sitwasyon, karaniwan namang naririnig namin yon sa mga estudyante, and there are really good teachers who every now and then are able to facilitate such a helpful and meaningful kumustahan, So, pwede po nating gawin ito habang kinukumusta ang pag-aaral ng ating mga estudyante, Ngayon, habang nakikinig tayo sa kanila at nararamdaman natin, meron silang pinagdadaanan, maganda rin na alisto tayo sa mga telltale signs, mga indikasyon na, mukha nga ata na may pinagdadaanan, So, pakinggan kong mabuti, tutukan ko to para malaman ko kung kailangan pa niya ng dagdag na suporta. Okay? So, ito lang ang ilang mga indicators. Pagka nagiging ineffective persistently ang estudyante sa sari-saring bahagi ng buhay, sa eskwelahan, dati prompt, ngayon hindi prompt. Dati high quality ang output, ngayon todo pasa. Sa relationship, dati tactful, caring, pero ngayon may pagkabastos magsalita o parang wala lang, pagka nadidisrupt ang basic daily functions, mga pang-araw-araw na dapat gawin natin, matulog, kumain, personal hygiene, pagka nababawasan yun o kaya nawawala, parang may nangyayari na. And when they bring so much unhappiness, pag nakita natin yung mga estudyante natin na dati, masiglang-masigla, bright eyes, may ngiti sa labi, pero ngayon, laging hunched shoulders, sa body posture pa lang, kitang-kita mo na, may mabigat na pinagdadaanan, and in their own narratives, sinasabi na malungkot. At saka manifesting non-normative behaviors, lihis na mga hindi karaniwan, hinaasahan ng mga kilos, tulad ng bigla na lang iiyak, walang context, sobrang praning, hindi naman dapat maging suspicious, talking to oneself, okay? Walang logic ang sinasabi, non-normative behaviors yan. Pagka nagkakaroon ng violent behavior, kinakatakot na tuloy ng mga kaklase na makipagtrabaho sa kanya. There is direct or indirect threat to life. Sinasabi ng diretso, mabuti na siguro mawala na ako. O indirect, engaging in high-risk behavior. Abay, lumalabas na walang mask, nagpupunta sa mga masikip na mga lugar. Alam mo, it's only a matter of time before they get sick. And when any of this or all of these experiences stay for a long time. Hindi lang 1 or 2 days. Normal naman siguro 1 or 2 days, pwedeng mahaba, 3. Pero pag nag-persist, 2 linggo na ganun pa rin, and even more, ibang usapan na yan. And self-help and mutual help, ganun naman tayo, tinutulungan natin ang ating sarili at tumutulong tayo sa ating kapwa if they don't significantly deal with these manifestations, baka kinakailangan na ng professional help. Okay? What else? Yung kumustahan, as it comes. Okay? Pero pwedeng i-formalize natin yon. Pwedeng mga departamento mag-establish ng what we call student-centered advising system. Diba? Bago magsimula ang semester, sa gitna ng semester, you schedule, you assign students to certain faculty members, and then you do academic advising. Pero in the course of academic advising, you find out how they're doing in school, ano mga pinagdadaanan nila na mas emotional, social, paano naapektuhan ng kanilang pinagdadaanan, ang kanilang pag-aaral at ang kanilang buhay, and giving opportunities to share information that would help the student deal with the problem. At kung mahirap yung problema, making referrals. Na kailangan. Okay? So, if any department is interested in establishing a formal student advising system, tawag lang po kayo sa amin, sa PsycServ. We will be willing to do a 2-hour training session for the whole faculty on how to establish this student-centered advising system. So, merong mga components na kailangan dyan. Kailangan na advising committee, program advisors, may proseso na pagdadaanan, a little bit like the kumustahan that you saw, and time to sit with the student and go through the advising process. And then, syempre, bawat departamento, bawat faculty, merong referral information. So, andito po ang ilang mga information that would be helpful in situations where students need referral. Ibibigay ko lang po sa inyo itong PowerPoint na to. Ngayon, bawat isa po sa atin na mga kaguruan, maaaring may katanungan at saka mga concerns tungkol sa hamon na ito na mag-provide ng psychosocial support. Halimbawa, yung tanong na, paano ko ihahanda ang sarili ko? How do I prepare myself to help? So, syempre, ang unang step po dyan is to ask yourself, how much are you willing to commit yourself to your students this semester outside academic work? Kasi iba-iba naman ang semesters. May semester na dahil nating pinagkakaabalahan, may semester na mas laid back tayo. Okay? So mga katanungan, am I willing to do tutorials? May mga estudyante kasi hirap na hirap sila pagka modules. Kailangan talaga nila may nakikita, may nakakausap. So sabi ng isang estudyante, Ma'am, Doc, tuwan-tuwa ako dun sa teacher ko. Sinabi ko, hindi ko po kaya ng ng modules lang. Inupuan po ako para bigyan ako ng kaunting input sa tutorial. Do I have time and energy to follow up a student who is vulnerable? Siyempre, i-refer ko. But would I say, puntahan mo ulit ako para malaman ko ano na nangyari. Di ba? Pangalawa, let's prepare by attending webinars. Meron po tayo ngayon sa PsycServ, attend a training webinar on how to be a lifeline. Yung usapan po natin ito, may expanded version. Or how to set up a student-centered advising system. Tawag lang po kayo. Pangatlo, may concern minsan tayo sa ating sarili. Halimbawa sa ating personality. Tinatanong natin, hindi naman ako friendliest na tao. Paano ako makaka-reach out doon sa mga estudyante? And here's the good news, hindi naman ho kinakailangan maging friendliest and chubbiest. No? Hindi kinakailangan extroverted at saka may award kayo sa friendship. We just need to be caring, be concerned, and communicate that concern and care. We just need to prepare to initiate conversation, ano? Katulad nung sa teacher kanina. Provide space and time in which your students can respond at saka buksan ang pintuan para sa future, kung gusto pa nila makipag-usap, kakatok lang sila sa inyong Zoom o telepono. Pang-apat, sa atin naman willing na unawain ng mga estudyante. Kaya lang sinasabi natin, hindi naman ako marunong ng counseling. And this is the good news, hindi po kayo required to provide counseling sa psychosocial support. Kaya po differentiated yung term na psychosocial support from counseling. Yung counseling, bigay niyo po sa amin yan at saka sa OCG. Okay? Ang psychosocial support ay pakikinig lang, pagbibigay ng nararapat na tugon para ang estudyante na nahihirapan, who is hurting, can be brought to people who can adequately help them. Kahuli-hulihan po, let us take care of ourselves. Sa ngayon ho, more than ever, we are called to take care of ourselves and pay attention to our mental health and well-being. Dahil how we are, our state of well-being actually affect how we teach and learn alongside our students. Di po ba? Ang best instrument natin in teaching is not really our books, but ourselves. And we have to make sure that the best instrument we have in teaching is in its working good condition. Kaya iwanan ko na po kayo, tatapusin ko na po ang webinar na ito by giving you 3 quotations. Yung una, it is not selfish to refill your own cup so that you can pour into others. It is not just a luxury, it is essential. Yung pangalawa po, what you do for yourself, you're doing for others. And what you do for others, you're doing for yourself. And lastly, taking care of you means the people in your life will receive the best of you rather than what's left of you. Marami pong salamat sa ating lahat.
Thank you so much, Doc Bo. Meron po na tayong mga questions na pumasok. So I hope you don't mind po if we answer some of them po.
Okay.
Okay po. So mukhang meron po tayong mga similar inquiries about yung pong limitations ng faculty at the moment. No? Yung questions po like, how can we be a lifeline to students when we ourselves suffer from psychological issues? Or tayo rin po may mga pinagdadaanan. Yung isa naman po ang sinabi ay, how can we give something that we don't have?
Oo. Nakakatuwa naman po ang inyong honesty, katapatan sa sarili. Alam nyo na meron kayong kakulangan at meron kayong pinagdadaanan. Ano? At meron talagang certain limitation yon. Pero one of the things that we realize sa harap ng pangailangan, may estudyante tayo at ang ating gawain bilang teacher ay tulungan sila na matuto. And it so happened na ang kanilang psychosocial issues are getting in the way of learning. So we attend to that problem the best way we can. Ano? It may not be the perfect way, but it is what the situation is asking from us. And surprisingly, miski alam natin na at that moment na nakita natin ang estudyante and we ask her how she is, pero tayo may pinagdadaanan, we are surprised na even in the midst of such situation, nakakatulong tayo significantly. Siyempre, being aware of the situation tells us yung mga hindi inaasahang encounters, we respond to them. Okay? Pero yung mga pwede mo namang i-structure, isaayos, then we have the choice, okay, and the responsibility na during the time na maraming dumadaan sa buhay natin, we're not loading ourselves with more concerns than we normally can handle.
Okay po. So ma'am, punta po tayo doon sa online kumustahan po that you shared. May nagtanong po kung yung pangumusta po ba ng one-on-one ay sa lahat ng students or pipiliin lang ng teacher yung mukhang may problema? Parang is it the teacher who initiates the kumustahan? Paano raw po kung almost 100 yung students this sem?
Talagang basically impossible talaga pagka 100 naka-online kayo. The student will find you. Kasi merong dating ang teacher. Meron rin ganon. Merong mga dating ang teacher that makes the student want to approach the teacher and share. So yun. Pangalawa, meron ka ring radar. And you can make that radar even more powerful. How do you do that? May mga exercises na sumulat ng iyong reflection sa iyong buhay during the pandemic. Di binasa mo. Di necessarily nakita mo na kung sino yung talagang kailangang tutukan. And because you're not providing counseling, you could see in 15-20 minutes time, ang dahil ng pwedeng mangyari. Ang mahalaga lang, they don't fall between the cracks. They are identified and they feel supported and referred to people who have the time and the expertise to provide help.
Related po doon, Doc Bo, kung advisable daw po ba to do one-on-one online kumustahan? Kasi other students might misconstrue this as favoritism or issues such as harassment might arise.
Okay. Understandable naman yon given our framework nowadays. Remember, the University of the Philippines has decided way back last year in its intercampus summit to transform the university campuses into nurturing communities. Kaya tama-tama pagpasok ng COVID, meron ng ganong mindset, So kasama naman siya sa worldview natin ngayon sa UP. And then, as you could see sa kumustahan, dun sa vignette, sinabi nung teacher na kami ngayon sa departamento, naisip natin na we would like to be more supportive to our students. Kaya kung merong pinagdadaanan ng estudyante na gusto niyang i-share at makikita namin pwede kami maging helpful, di maganda yon. So it's setting the atmosphere, the perspective, hindi lang ito chismis, at saka nasa paraan ng pagdadala ng sarili. Okay, kaya yung learning how to be a lifeline and providing advising to students provides also some guidelines to ethical practice of providing psychosocial support. Kasi kinakailangan maalam rin tayo sa mga sinasabi natin, paraan ng pagsasalita natin, na hindi mami-misconstrue. Na pwede naman mangyari yan online or in face-to-face conversations. So we always have to practice this kind of sensitivity.
Ito, Doc, mukhang may kinalaman na to dun sa preparation din ng faculty, parang psychological preparation natin as we go through this remote learning. Would it be selfish daw po to not answer emails or messages from students beyond office hours and on weekends? I feel guilty if I do not answer them, but sometimes they send messages even on the wee hours of the evening and morning. So I guess ito po yung pag-establish ng boundary vis-a-vis, showing them that we support them during this time.
Ang galing naman ng tanong, ano? Kasi what we are encouraging from each and every one is learning how to be kind to our students. And kindness is going out of our way to inquire who is hurting and providing a lifeline para hindi sila malulunod. Pero ang basic principle ng kindness is that should be experienced by the person in relation to oneself. So dapat mabait rin tayo sa ating sarili, hindi lang sa ating kapwa. So that includes setting boundaries that are creative, responsible, and appropriate to where we are at present. Ano? So may mga oras tayo. I'm a psychotherapist, I'm a clinical psychologist, may oras at araw ako that I open my cell phone, my computer to connect with my clients and my students. Outside those hours, I will have to be with myself. I will have to be with my loved ones. Otherwise, wala akong i-share. Nasaid na ako. Di ba? So, that's part of self-care.
Bahagi din po nun yung, is it okay to even share with our students what we are going through? No, that we're also having our downs. No? Yung okay po ba daw to be transparent to our students?
That's a principle and a strategy. Ang tawag natin dyan sa psychology, self-disclosure. No? As you could see, self-disclosure is a strategy to helping in our work of providing psychosocial support. No? Pero very discriminate ang paggamit ng self-disclosure. Ang self-disclosure, ang end goal niya, lagi, ay para matulungan ang kausap na mas lalong ma-appreciate ang kanyang kinalalagyan at makakuha ng gabay para harapin yung kanyang pinagdadaanan. Self-disclosure should never be used for the teacher to feel catharsis, to come across as, wow, galing mo. So, hindi centered sa teacher ang consideration ng self-disclosure, pero centered dun sa estudyante. No? Kung makakabuti, i-share. Pero yung panahon rin na ginugol sa sharing, yung airtime, dapat maiksi lang. Kung hindi, you're the one who's going through psychosocial support, not the student. Hindi ba? Oo.
Susugan ko na yan, Doc Bo, about needing psychosocial support. Meron po nagsabi din sa chat, no, at meron din po nagtanong sa Q&A kung paano po kaya natin best na masusuportahan yung psychosocial needs naman ng faculty. How can we provide support for them naman po? And actually po, Doc, we've had initial conversations na din with Doc Div from PsycServ, no, about trying to form some system for faculty. Pero top of mind po, do you have suggestions on how we can support our faculty?
Ang ganda naman. So ang basic principle is teachers are people too. So meron tayong sariling pangailangan. At dalawang klase ang pangailangan natin. Pangailangan in relation to our problems At yung isang pangailangan is growth needs. Hindi ko mo nagpunta ka for counseling or psychosocial support, meron na akong malalim na pinagdadaanan. Hindi. Hindi ba all of us wants to grow, to become more put together? And the good news is that, through responsible and creative means, we can even become better persons and experience enhanced well-being even in the time of pandemic. So ano yung mga paraan na yon? Merong pwede tayo magkaroon ng well-being, self-care webinars, di ba? At ang maganda sa mga webinars na to, kung may panahon tayo, may resources tayo, after a short webinar of 30 minutes, the participants, let's say merong 16 na po na participants, di meron kang facilitators na 10. So magbe-break up yan into 10 waiting rooms. Pagtapos may activity doon, may processing para mas personal at saka mas in-depth ang pagkaunawa ng participants na faculty doon sa mga narinig na principles and tools to well-being. So maganda yun, di ba? Hindi ba merong chicken soup for adults, chicken soup for parents, chicken soup for teenagers? Di gumawa tayo ng our own brand of chicken soup, messages and activities for our teachers. So dapat meron rin tayo na telepsychotherapy para sa kanila. Now there are two kinds of telepsychotherapy. Pwede yung individual sessions, I talk to you, pwede rin naman na group sessions. 4 or 5 faculty, they want to meet with a facilitator who is a therapist. Pwedeng yung mga issues ay general, pwede rin namang thematic. It could be a growth group for letting go. Sabi ko nga, ang daing ending relationships during the pandemic. So it could be the focus. Grieving is another thing. Dealing with vulnerabilities. Kasi pagka nagkasakit ka ng COVID, yung iba parang wala lang, pero malaking porsyento rin, they feel tired na bago ang sistema dealing with those kinds of adjustments. So pwedeng thematic, So yun, and then of course, there's so much about joyfulness that comes from service. And service psychosocial support is not only about pakikipag-usap. Iba-iba kasi ang interes at saka giftedness ng mga tao. So ngayon, isang mga challenge, merong mga lulls sa pang-araw-araw na buhay. Hindi lahat ng tao magaling mag-fill in ng lulls. Meron yung kaibigan kong PT, kaya pinadala na ako ng bodywork exercise. Physical therapist siya, but she could put together a webinar that includes real bodywork. So our faculty who have special interests and giftings on certain topics can say, Doc Bolet, can you host me for this particular webinar? I would like to share my newfound passion and ability in gardening, in cooking, in bodywork. And then that gets to be the start of building caring communities sa UPs among ourselves, Hindi, we cannot go out to walk. Hindi ba yun ang mga hiling natin? Mamang kakabarkada, maglakad tayo sa UP campus. Sarap, O mga friends, kumain tayo sa bagong restaurant together. But maybe there are other hubs, points of togetherness that we can circularize, and they don't only be hubs for activities, but that's where friendships begin. So we don't need to be alienated, marginalized on our own during the pandemic. So some thoughts yun.
Okay po. Siguro po just a quick tip on
faculty members who tell other faculty members about what students are going through. Parang confidentiality daw po is not observed by the faculty member.
Oo, napakahalaga nun. Maraming salamat, Ton. And every now and then, even us can be guilty of that, ano? Kasi napaka-fluid ng buhay. We go from one situation to another. Minsan, hindi natin nakukondisyon ang mind natin. Kinausap natin yung estudyante, and that's it. That is a sacred engagement, and it's not something that can be a topic for easy casual conversation, ano? So yung sinasabi natin sa mga estudyante mismo na yung i-share mo, it stays only between the two of us, and only in cases na merong threat to life na maaring i-violate ko itong confidentiality na ito. So, dapat very fierce tayo sa pag-uphold ng prinsipyong ito. Kasi ang very precious, sacred sharing can be turned into, demeaning gossip. Diba? Tapos pagka marinig ng estudyante na something told in private comes out, it destroys not only the student's confidence in that individual faculty, but it destroys the student's confidence on the whole system. Hindi ba? It puts a question mark on trustworthiness of people. So let's be responsible for our behaviors as facilitators of not only learning, but also growth and wellness.
Dok, okay lang ba last two questions po?
Sure.
Okay. Sige po. So some students daw po are sort of fond of approaching the faculty for their personal problems. No? Pero nagkaroon daw po siya ng scare during the pandemic. What is the best thing to do daw if students chat with the prof in the wee hours in the morning and tells you that the student wants to hurt themselves?
Okay.
Emergency po.
So yon, I would assume na talagang tunay na nangyari. Okay? Na, kasi there's something about the early morning hours. Pagka-depressed ka, paggising mo, and you are accompanied by depression, ang sense mo, another day is beginning. That is horrible. Kaya there are many cases of attempted suicide also early in the morning. Diba? I have one basic principle. I put hours when I entertain calls. No? Pagka hindi ko bubuksan ang cellphone ko, pagka mas maaga, then 8 o'clock in the morning. No? Alam ng mga estudyante ko yon. Ngayon, kung emergency, at alam rin nilang alagaan ako. Ganun rin yun di ba? Yung utang na loob really means I owe it to our shared humanity that we take care of each other. So, inaalagaan natin ang ating estudyante, meron ring return yun Tanyo yung sa role-playing, hindi naka-script yun, pero yung nagro-roleplay ng estudyante, kept on saying, nakakahiya naman ho, I took a lot of your time. That is normal in Filipino psychology. Hindi pakabig ng pakabig. Nag-iisip rin, implikasyon nito sa teacher. Generally, ganon, So, pagka nagkaroon ng departure from that, ibig sabihin, serious, So, I stay and then I make referral at hindi ko iwanan ng estudyante hanggang hindi siya nakakonektado sa caregiver, sa professional. Hanggat hindi siya nakakonektado sa counselor, sa PsycServ, sa OCG, sa psychiatrist niya. Hindi ba? So yon, mahalaga yon. Kaya may responsibility rin hindi naman laging nangyayari yan. Thank God, Oo. Pero merong ring mga cases na hindi naman talaga sila crisis. Pero they got into the habit of calling on you because you serve as their tranquilizer. And because you do not put boundaries, then they feel entitled and so easy to disturb your peace and quiet at strange hours. So yun, idinidiretso natin. Sinasaayos natin para hindi rin tayo taken advantage of. It happened to me when I was a young therapist. I was helping a friend as a therapist and she crossed the boundary. She would always barge into my room kasi dormate eh. Nagre-review ako sa dissertation, sa aking comprehensive exam. Kaya very well protected ang oras ko. And every time I hear a knock on my door, biglang kakabog ang dibdib ko. Kasi, oh my God, here's another intrusion. And ang dalas. So I needed to talk to her. So I learned.
Doc Bo, last question na lang po. Quick message po to faculty members who believe they have nothing to do with students' lives, since in their view, college is supposed to be a stage where students have to learn how to be independent. So basically po, parang meron po ba kayong final message na lang po to anyone who don't feel like it's part of their job?
Well, the truth is, I also don't want to overburden the work of the faculty. Hindi ba? Merong circumscribed roles faculty, and that's to teach, to facilitate learning. But we do know that learning is not an experience that is isolated from other experiences. So alam na natin, studies have shown that learning is influenced by psychosocial factors. And that's the reason why we are called upon as faculty not to counsel, not to teach, but to create a learning environment that is psychologically facilitative of learning and to identify students who are going through difficulties so they could be supported, okay, and eventually by people who are trained to provide support so that they could engage in meaningful and productive learning. So ang heart ng ating psychosocial support when we engage in it is really as teachers. Wider lang ang pag-unawa natin ng learning process.
Thank you so much, Doc Bo. That was very, very helpful. Dami pong mga nagsasabi na ang galing niyo raw po, ang husay niyo raw po, at maraming salamat for all your tips. No? In fact, if you want to send more love to Doc Bo, pwede po kayong pumunta sa ating quick short evaluation form po. It's at bit.ly/RILC Lifeline. No? Para po sa dun po natin sabihin kay Doc Bo yung iba pa po nating messages. Doc Bo, in case they want to reach you or PsycServ, how do they contact you po?
My number is open to everybody. It's 0917-816-1954. The number of PsycServ, hindi ko memorize. Baka pwedeng paki-flash na lang.
Sige po. We posted the link po dun sa Facebook page ng PsycServ.
So, and you could send also your communication to me through the email of PsycServ, and they would fan it out to us.
Okay po. And i-share, pwede daw po pakiulit yung number ninyo slowly. Kasi medyo mabilis daw po.
0917
0917
816 1954.
1954. Okay. So, 0917 816 1954. Okay po. So, sorry. Baka po gusto niyo po i-contact lang si Doc Bo for that. Okay po. So finally, Doc Bo, and to all our panelists, alam ko we're a little bit over time, but since magsisimula na po yung classes next week, at bahagi po ito pa rin ng pagbibigyan natin ng suporta sa ating faculty, meron lang po sa ating very few words of encouragement maybe from our Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, si Dr. Tess Payangayong. Hi, Ma'am Tess.
Hi, Ma'am Tess!
Ma'am, sorry, nakamute ka pa. Okay.
Okay. Naririnig na po?
Yes po.
Okay. So, thank you very much, Sir Ton, Ma'am Bolet. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. I would like to thank all of you for attending today's final webinar. Tama ba? This is the final webinar?
Yes po.
Before we face the first semester, no, 2020-2021. Thank you very much, Prof. Emeritus Bolet Bautista, for your insightful sharing. I know this has been an extremely difficult journey for all of us. Name it, we received all sorts of questions, complaints, and suggestions from stakeholders, from students, from staff, from faculty. But we understand them, of course. We understand them. We understand how difficult it is for us to be facing this pandemic, the new normal it presents, the changes, the preparations, the guidelines, FAQs, infographics, memos, webinars. Totoo pong nakakapagod kahit mag-enumerate pa lang. But I am thankful for all of you who, despite the odds, continue to support and learn and do their best to prepare for the first semester. This is what makes UP UP. Our critical minds are part of who we are. This will not be UP if we just keep quiet and swallow whatever ideas are given to us. But we are also creative thinkers. Our creative minds lead the university and its students to greater sense of honor, excellence, and public service. We may be experiencing doubts, fatigue, or even anxiety about how we will handle remote teaching and learning for the first time. But I trust that our creative minds will work for the achievement of our goal this first semester. And that is to be able to continue to impart knowledge to our students. Lastly, we are also caring thinkers. Caring thinking means knowing and understanding where people are coming from. I believe that the caring thinking in us would allow for compassion and understanding in these extraordinary times. Let us care for others. Let us care. Let us take care of each other. But most importantly, let us take care of ourselves. Muli, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Maraming salamat sa UP Diliman Remote Learning Committee, headed by OAT Director Professor Ton Clemente. Of course, we also would like to thank the Interactive Learning Center, headed by Professor Lorelei Grepo Halao, who is also a member of the Remote Learning Committee. Our support staff from OVCAA, from OAT and ILC, maraming salamat sa inyo. Pagtulungan po natin ang unang semestre. Maraming salamat at mag-ingat po tayong lahat. Mahalin at pangalagaan ang ating sarili.
Thank you so much, Ma'am Tess, for dropping by and for that message to our faculty. Once again, Doc Bo, thank you po. This is a reminder, so babalikan ko lang po yung binanggit niyo po kanina, na we need a community to keep our students well. No? At ito po ay isa sa mga steps na ginagawa natin so to ensure that our students will thrive and learn despite the odds of remote learning during this pandemic. So thank you so much po ulit for your time, Doc Bo. Salamat po sa inyong lahat for attending. Good luck po sa lahat. We will do our best na mag-pivot po tayo ng kaunti dun sa ating support for our faculty and students as the semester opens. So we'd love to hear from you po. If you have suggestions on what else we can do, feel free to send us an email. But in the meantime, please get lots of rest. Good luck po with your course packs in case you're still preparing them and uploading them in our LMSs. and stay well po. Enjoy the rest of the day po and happy weekend to everybody. Po. So we will be closing this webinar na po. In 1 minute, we will send you po the link. Yung presentation ni Doc Boss when it's available. Plus, this webinar po is available on YouTube courtesy of the Interactive Learning Center Diliman. Yes, nasa YouTube po ito. If you remember po yung email, yung link po ng YouTube is in the email. Thank you to Miss Melody from ILC. Thank you to Daisy from OT. Thank you po ulit. Okay po. Yan, nakapost po sa chat yung link to the YouTube recording so you can revisit po and share with your colleagues. Yes po, we will send you po the slides as soon as we receive them from Doc Melody. Thank you po ulit. Please let us know how this webinar went. Please visit bit.ly/RILC Lifeline. Thanks, Martes. Okay po. So we will be closing this na po. Happy Friday po, everybody. Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, sa lahat.
Sige po. Bye-bye. What's the link to our response again? Bit. Yan po. Madali lang po siya tandaan. It's bit.ly/RILC Lifeline. Okay po. Bye-bye. See you.